The morning light of August 24th, 79 AD spilled softly over the Bay of Naples. Fishermen set sail. Children laughed in the narrow streets of Pompeii. The market buzzed with the scent of bread, olives, and wine. Above them all, Mount Vesuvius stood quietly, a guardian, a shadow, a god. For centuries, it had watched over the city, silent, patient, eternal. The people built their homes, carved their statues, and wrote their prayers at its feet. They believed the mountain was sleeping. They never knew it was listening. Deep beneath the calm earth, fire churned, gases pressed, and molten rock surged upward, a slow heartbeat beneath the streets of marble and laughter. As the sun rose higher, the pigeons above the forum scattered suddenly. The ground shivered, a faint rumble echoed through the hills, and in that single fragile heartbeat between peace and terror, the gods of fire awoke. Pompeii was about to be remembered, not for how it lived, but for how it ended. But no one could imagine what came next, when Earth trembled. If stories like this fascinate you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It keeps history alive. Pompeii, a thriving Roman city of nearly 12,000 souls, lay at the edge of the shimmering Tyrrhenian Sea. It was a world painted in color and comfort. Elegant villas lined the stone streets. Walls were alive with frescoes of gods and lovers. The air smelled of wine, salt, and freshly baked bread drifting from the Thermopolium, the ancient taverns of Rome. Merchants called out from stalls heavy with figs, olives, and bronze trinkets. Gladiators trained under the southern sun. At dusk, musicians played near the fountains while lamps flickered in the courtyards of the wealthy. Life in Pompeii seemed eternal. And towering above all this beauty, Mount Vesuvius. Its dark, sloping sides were lush with vineyards and olive groves. The people adored it, even worshipped it, never fearing its silent power. It had not erupted in 1,000 years. To them, it was part of the Earth's heart, a protector, not a threat. Yet, over the weeks before that fateful day, nature whispered warnings. Dogs refused to eat. Wells dried up. Small tremors shook walls and rattled amphorae in cellars. Still, the people went on, laughing, loving, and living, blind to the gathering storm beneath their feet. The calm before history's firestorm had begun. The first sign came without warning. Just past noon, a thunderous roar split the sky. A sound so vast, so alien, that the very air seemed to shatter. Birds vanished mid-flight, windows rattled, the sea withdrew from the shore. And from the summit of Mount Vesuvius, a pillar of smoke and ash shot upward, dark as night, rising higher and higher until it blotted out the sun itself. People froze in the streets, their eyes fixed on the mountain they once trusted. Some thought it was the gods showing anger. Others prayed or ran or simply stared. Within minutes, the ash began to fall. Soft at first, like gray snow dusting the rooftops. Then heavier, hotter, thicker. It stung the skin, filled the air, and turned the bright afternoon into twilight. In villas and shops, families gathered their belongings, covering their mouths with cloth, searching for loved ones in the haze. They tried to flee, but every road led back toward chaos. The city gates were choked with people. Carts overturned. Horses screamed. The earth trembled again, harder this time. Cracking walls, collapsing roofs, burying the helpless beneath clouds of stone and fire. By late afternoon, Vesuvius erupted with unimaginable fury. Molten rock rained down from the heavens. A plume 20 miles high stretched like a monstrous tree, its branches spreading destruction across the bay. Then came the pyroclastic surges, a rolling wall of superheated gas and ash moving faster than any human could run. It swallowed Herculaneum first, a nearby town on the coast, then turned toward Pompeii. Witnesses on distant ships would later describe it as a sea of fire rushing down the mountain. Inside the city, the last moments were chaos and prayer. Some hid in cellars, believing the stone walls could save them. Others clung to their children, their faces pressed to the earth, whispering the names of their gods. But the gods were silent. The mountain's roar drowned out every voice. Within seconds, the first surge hit, a blast of scalding air hotter than a furnace, followed by a wave of ash that froze bodies where they stood. Men, women, children, preserved in the very posture of their final breath. When night fell, the fire still burned on the horizon. The sea glowed red. The air was thick with sulfur and sorrow. Pompeii was gone, buried beneath nearly 20 feet of volcanic ash and rock. The world above would move on, but beneath the mountain, time stood still. A city locked forever in its final day, waiting for the world to remember its name. When dawn finally broke, there was no dawn at all. Only a dull gray light filtering through an endless sky of ash. Where streets once echoed with laughter, there was silence. Where fountains once sparkled, there was dust. Pompeii no longer breathed. The volcano had smothered every corner of life. Temples, markets, gardens, all buried beneath layers of ash and pumice. The sea, once alive with sails and voices, had turned black and still. Even the air hung heavy, tasting of iron and smoke. Days later, rescuers from nearby towns arrived, but what they found was not a city. It was a grave. Stone columns jutted out of mounds of ash like broken bones. The outlines of doorways and windows led to nowhere, and within those gray layers, the shapes of the lost began to emerge. Bodies caught mid-motion, a mother shielding her child, a man clutching a lamp that would never be lit again. They tried to dig, to find survivors, but each spade of ash revealed only stillness. There was no one left to save. The mountain had written their names in fire and then sealed them in silence. In the years that followed, the survivors moved on, speaking little of the day the sky turned to stone. They rebuilt their homes elsewhere, leaving behind a memory they could not face. For nearly 1,700 years, Pompeii slept beneath the earth, untouched, forgotten as vines and time swallowed its remains. But beneath that silence, the city waited. Its walls, its art, its final moments preserved in perfect stillness. Pompeii had become a ghost of itself, a message from the past, waiting for curious hands to uncover its final breath. Nearly 17 centuries later, in 1748, a group of workers digging near Naples uncovered something extraordinary. A wall covered in frescoes, vivid with color, as if painted yesterday. They had found Pompeii. As excavations continued, the earth began to give back its secrets. Streets reappeared, still paved with worn stones. Amphorae of wine lay sealed in cellars. Bakeries still held loaves of bread, perfectly preserved in ash. Time had stopped, but memory had not faded. Pompeii had waited patiently to speak again. Archaeologists, artists, and historians from across Europe descended upon the site. What they uncovered wasn't merely ruins. It was a frozen world, a city captured in its final heartbeat. The shapes of men and women, their faces twisted in fear or peace, were revealed by the technique of plaster casting, each cavity in the ash filled with plaster to reveal the exact posture of life interrupted. Through Pompeii, the modern world glimpsed the fragility of civilization. Here was Rome, its wealth, its art, its decadence, preserved not by design, but by disaster. The tragedy became a mirror for humanity, reminding us that beauty and ruin often share the same breath. Pompeii transformed archaeology itself. It gave birth to the idea of time travel through preservation. To walk its streets was to walk alongside the ghosts of antiquity. Even now, centuries later, the frescoes still whisper of laughter, ambition, and faith. The graffiti carved into the walls still tells jokes, confessions, and love. Life never truly left Pompeii. It only paused. The disaster also reshaped how we understand volcanoes. Scientists studying Vesuvius learned to read the signs of eruption, to listen to the tremors, the gases, the Earth's heartbeat. The mountain that once destroyed a city became a teacher for the generations that followed. And perhaps most profoundly, Pompeii became a story of remembrance, a testament that even in total loss, human life can endure through memory, art, and discovery. From ash to museum halls, from tragedy to teaching, Pompeii's voice still echoes across time. It reminds us not of how people died, but of how they lived, beautifully, imperfectly, beneath the shadow of a sleeping god. In the heart of Pompeii, the streets remain silent. Statues stand where laughter once lived, and the soft footprints of a vanished people still mark the stone roads. Every wall, every fresco, every cast figure tells the same truth, that time may bury us, but memory can unearth us again. The mountain that took their lives also preserved their souls. Its fury became their immortality. Through ash, we remember names once whispered in Roman homes. Through ruin, we hear the echo of their world, their hopes, their fears, their final breath. And as the sun sets over Vesuvius today, its calm peak glows red in the dying light, a quiet monument to everything lost and found again. Pompeii reminds us that civilization is fragile, but remembrance is eternal. The earth trembled once, and in that trembling, it carved a memory that will never fade. If you believe these stories should never be forgotten, subscribe and keep history alive. When Earth Trembled.